Welcome back to Aquatic Themescapes, the home of fish tanks with surprising historical, ethnological, mystical or mythical depth. In this video you will learn how to take great pictures of your aquarium fish. There is a big step between taking wide-shot videos of your aquarium and taking quality pictures of your favorite fish. The larger slow-moving fish might be relatively easy to capture on camera, but most fish are small and lively, hence much more difficult. Fortunately, there are relatively simple ways to get good pictures of your fish without having to set up a complex flash-assisted setup. Let us see how. You will of course first need a camera. The better option would be a recent DSLR or mirrorless camera. You want it to be recent because the low light performance of cameras has vastly improved over the past few years. This is what makes taking good pictures of aquarium fish without flash now possible, when that was not possible a few years ago. Ideally, your camera should also allow for changeable lenses and have a manual mode. If you are familiar with the concepts of aperture, exposure, ISO, and you know how to set those manually on your camera, you are ready to go. If not, find out how to control these parameters on your camera, as this is crucial for understanding this video and achieving good results. There are many YouTube videos explaining the basics of photography in manual mode. It is the preferred mode for the serious hobbyist and many professional photographers. If you own a point-and-shoot type of camera, you may achieve some results using either the portrait or macro presets. This will be a bit more hit and miss, and you will probably not benefit as much from the following discussion of camera settings. However, you should note that the preset modes I just mentioned will tend to result in your camera using default settings not too far off from my recommendations. In terms of what lens to use on your DSLR or mirrorless camera, I would recommend you use a zoom of 70 to 200 mm focal length to photograph large and medium fish, and also fish as small as 1 inch in length. The minimum focus distance should be around 1 meter or less, and the magnification ratio equal to 0.2 or higher. For smaller fish, a macro lens of 100 mm focal length will be ideal. Typically, the minimum focal distance of such macro lens will let you get much closer to the subject for magnification ratio between 0.2 and up to 1. Finally, you want these lenses to be so-called fast lenses that have a wide aperture to let a lot of light in while creating shallow depth of field. And maximum aperture of f2.8 is best. f4 can also adequate, but I would not recommend lower apertures than that. f2.8 lenses are expensive, so consider second-hand used ones. Now that you have your camera and lenses sorted, let us prepare the room and your aquarium. Your aquarium should be at its best in terms of water clarity and color. For photography, avoid tea-color water, yellow water or particles in suspension. You might want to do a partial water change a couple of days before so that the water looks great and your fish radiate health and happiness by showing their best colors. If you use powerheads or have a lot of current and bubbles in your tank, you will want to reduce the flow. This will also help slow down fast-swimming fish and make their trajectory more predictable. The inside and outside of the front glass of your tank should be thoroughly cleaned to avoid algae spots on the inside and traces of grease, dust, champagne streaks or other marks on the outside of the tank. To avoid reflections, pictures are best taken in complete darkness except for the light from the focal aquarium. You should avoid wearing white or light-colored clothing that can create a visible reflection of you on the aquarium glass. One of the most crucial preparation for taking pictures is to ensure that the foreground of your aquarium is well lit. Fish tanks often look better with dimmed light or shaded patches, which make the fish more comfortable. But for photography without flash, we want to momentarily use sufficient lighting to ensure good photo quality. When this is all done, we are ready to start taking some test pictures. Position yourself facing the aquarium about 1 meter away when using the 70 to 200 zoom or closer with the macro 100 lens. You should take pictures of fish at a 90 degrees angle from the front glass plus or minus 20 degrees. Using more of an angle can create complex diffraction that results in poor picture quality. Using your camera controls in manual mode, set your camera to f2.8 to f4 aperture, with an exposure of 1/125 of a second for slower fish to 1/500 for faster fish. Set your ISO settings to Auto ISO. Use the exposure compensation button to -1, and if the background of your aquarium is dark you can go as low as -2. Use vibration reduction or image stabilization on your lenses or camera body. You can also use a tripod for comfort. Take a few test pictures of slow-moving fish in the foreground first and review the images for motion blur, exposure, and, particularly, what ISO value the camera had to use in relation to your other parameters. To avoid picture pixelation and generate images that can be enlarged or cropped, you want the camera to have enough light available to work with ISO values lower than 4000. Keeping your ISO values lower than 4000 can be tricky to achieve if you use fast exposure of 1/500 of a second or smaller lens apertures. So try avoiding those unless really necessary. If you realize that working within the recommended parameters is not possible, the easiest fix is to increase the amount of lighting over the foreground of the tank. Another strategy is to use slower exposure of 1/125 or 1/250 and take many pictures hoping that 1 or 2 will catch the fish when it is motionless. To capture the fish at the right time takes a good understanding of the movement of your fish around your aquarium decor, which will help anticipate the best possible pictures. In terms of picture composition, be mindful of the background behind you fish. You do not want distracting objects or odd colors appearing in the background. Also, most fish look good in front of green plants. Here is an example taken from the Congo River aquascape. The green of the Aponogeton plants is a perfect background for the subtle colors in this young male African longfin tetra. Under good light, fish will usually also look great on a dark background. Here the underexposure and shallow depth of field will contribute to isolating them and making them look suspended in the water column. This cute blue-eyed redcap oranda lives in the Bushido themescape. On this picture the dark background is out of focus and contributes to creating beautiful contrast showcasing the white fish as well as creating a feeling of space around the fish. Fish that are reclusive, shy, or nocturnal are the most difficult to get out in sufficient light for photographs. Do not chase or disturb those. Instead, using food as an incentive may be a helpful approach. Feeding just before their usual bedtime every day for several weeks before your photo shoots can encourage useful foraging behavior that will bring them in sight of your camera. In this example, the shy nocturnal mustard squeaker catfish in the Congo River tank was drawn to food pellets just a few minutes before the lights usually go off. This gave the fish a sense of security, and it fed in full sight. These several examples of photographs were taken at f2.8. With the 70 to 200 mm at some distance from the front glass. The zoom is practical as it allows you to get closer or further to your subject without physically moving. As you move closer to the aquarium to take pictures with the 100 mm fixed focal lens, you will need to adjust your distance to the fish depending on how much of the frame you want the fish to fill. At short distances your depth of field may be very small, and you might want to decrease your aperture to f3.5 or f4 to ensure that a bit more of the fish is in focus. In any case and regardless of lens, your best chance of getting a full-body sharp image of your fish is catching it when it swims parallel to the front glass. In this example, the beautiful male Apistogramma pandarini was captured in front of one of the AK-47 rounds of the Viva la Revolution themescape. Despite the fish filling the frame, the f4 aperture helped having the full length of the body in focus. In this other example, This fascinating hillstream tiger loach from the Lost Buddha aquascape was taken at f3.5 to ensure that its head and front part of the body would be in focus. In terms of autofocus settings, the most precise mode is the single-point autofocus that you can exploit to aim at the eye of the fish. Having the eye of the fish sharp and in focus is a must. Using the animal eye autofocus option available on some of the latest mirrorless cameras might also work in some circumstances. In terms of placement of your fish within the frame, you should try to follow the rule of thirds. As we will see in future videos, the rule of third is used extensively in various forms of artistic composition, as it is best adapted to our human vision and cognition. Finally, you can edit your images after you have taken them using readily available editing software such as Photos on Mac. This is a necessary step for those pictures that we intentionally underexposed. This will allow you to adjust their exposure and brighten them. You can also increase their sharpness, a little, not too much. Depending on the software, you can also remove unwanted bubbles or any visible scratches or stains on the aquarium glass that may appear on your image. This is it for this video. I hope you found it useful and wish you happy and successful photography. If you would like me to revisit some aspects of aquarium fish photography in more details, please leave a comment below. If you are interested in aquatic themescapes, a new philosophy of aquascaping, you can check some of our recently created themescapes on the playlist on our channel. And please do not forget to push the subscribe button.